advisor. He's a big man. My big uncle is joining us on the phone line now. Prof, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Yes, sir, Prof. And a happy new year to you, uncle.
Same to you, my good friend.
Great. Prof, yesterday, I'm sure that you followed the vetting of the 3 ministers designate. Let's begin the conversation from the vetting table and ask you, were you satisfied with the conduct of the vetting committee yesterday?
Well, let me be straight to say that I did not watch it to the last minute because I hear there was a walkout. I missed that part. But certainly earlier on, I think the committee did the work. There were a lot of exchanges, some tense moments. In the end, I was kind of comfortable with the vetting of the first and the second. I mean, it's clearly the minority attempted to assess itself, but I think maybe some of these parliamentary theatrics that we are used to, but the candidates, of course, performed very, very well. I like the responses of Olsen, that of Ayine, and there was a third one.
John Jinapo, Ayine, and Kesela.
John, in fact, was superb.
Kesela to Forsen
was superb. I was so impressed with his depth of knowledge and intelligence.
Right.
It's a good that all these guys are not new hands, and I believe that they are well prepared jobs assigned to them by the president.
Right. I see. Let me bring in Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ottare. He's a political analyst and a senior lecturer at the UCC and sometimes also at the University of Ghana. Doc, thank you for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Johnny.
Doc, I can hardly hear you. You have to speak up for me a bit.
Okay. Yeah, good morning.
Great.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Good to have you, and a happy new year to you. Let me also pick your initial thoughts on the vetting that happened yesterday. Were you satisfied?
Yes, the highs and the lows. Let me say good morning once again to your good self and to your listeners. I think that the nominees of the president demonstrated that they have what it takes to be ministers. Generally, they demonstrated that depth of knowledge in the area they were quizzed. So those highs you cannot take away, from the nominees. The other bit that got me a bit unsettled, and I felt it was becoming too much. The chairman sometimes will butt in, but with a voice above the normal, which for me was because he got a bit irritated along the line. Then the chairman overly liberalized,
3FM 92.7
supervision of the minority leader. I think that with respect to, for example, Dr. Ayene's, session, to the point or to the extent that as though we do not know when the minority that was going to end its question session. I think that is something that is, for me, one of those aspects that they will have to nip in the bud. And I think that before they go to the next section of nominees that the president will bring, they should do, management, pre-management of the vetting before they go to that place. Because you cannot in any way, look at the time that they closed. Look at the time that Dr. Ayene's, session started. Yes,
right.
We want to see that grilling of the nominees, but not to the extent that it becomes something as irritating as anything else. It was becoming a bit of a boredom session. And you see repetitions here and there. We are not in any, somebody has not been sent to the door that he will be like as if there is that what they call a
cross-examination
of a witness and a counsel on the other side. I think that is not the kind of vetting that we all want to be expected. Yeah.
Let me bring in Prof, and I'll ask you the same question. Were you also of the view, as has become a wash on social media, that the chairman was so liberal, and some have even labeled him as being weak, by first of all bringing in a new convention where friends of the committee were allowed to ask questions and make comments, and also the ranking member, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, arrogating to himself a shadow vice chair of a sort. Were you satisfied with how the chairman conducted himself?
Well, certainly I think myself with comments being the way the chairman managed the meeting. I don't know whether because he's new to the job or not, but certainly he was kind of too liberal. I think they have rules and procedures. And what I have to do next time is to ensure that they all stick to the rule. Some people are very hard to control. Now, Afenyo-Markin, even in the last parliament, demonstrated one of such individuals who, if you are not try to run over you. So I think the chairman should begin to assert himself, and before they sit for the next hearing, they should have a meeting among themselves and lay down the rules and then come out and enforce it. I think they're control. Otherwise, like somebody has suggested, it's all right. I listened to some of these hearings, Americans, and you can really cross-examine people. But it's not a court of law. It's an investigation, so to find out about the person's capability. So if there's a legitimate question to ask, that's proper. But I think it's the way you conduct yourself, the way you try to impose yourself, the way you always want to dominate. That's what the problem is. So I think they should have a meeting where there should be a clear-cut agreement on the procedure. For instance, some people are allowed only one question.
Right.
But occasionally, the third person will allow a second or even a third.
Right.
That's what the problem is.
In terms of the candidates who appeared before the committee, in your opinion, you're a senior governance advisor. Do you think they are cut for the job?
I have no doubts at all. In fact, John Jinapo was so impressive. Of course, I know him when he was a minority or ranking member in the government. He really has almost complete control over the sector managed. He demonstrated that in terms of the knowledge base. He demonstrated his ability to articulate details, and he have no doubt at all. And the others almost the same. Because the good news is that all these individuals are not new to the assignment they make. They've been in similar positions before. John was a deputy minister.
That's right.
Right. And Atuforsen, of course, was a deputy
all three deputy ministers,
so they know their areas. I'm very comfortable that they are going to deliver for the president and the nation.
Doc, let me bring you in and then ask you, so these are their own colleagues grilling them, but if you look at the numbers in Parliament now, somebody will say, well, whether you like it or not, they will go through another rubber stamp on our hands. Is that what you see?
Well, I think that if you consider the vetting section, then it means that it is not rubber stamping. In actual fact, it is probably for a good reason that the chairman decided to allow, questions to fly left, right, center. Now, that is to ensure that at the vetting session, everybody will see the depth of the nominees. And so when they get to plenary, it is just going to be business as usual. They wouldn't have much questions to ask. They wouldn't have much doubt in their mind, as it were, and that the approval, will go on as it should be. And so having seen this section where they have been thoroughly grilled and they have equally demonstrated that depth of knowledge in the areas that they are going to occupy, I think that is not rubber stamping, but it is a job well done.
Let's get into the meat of the matter. So, privatization of ECG was one of the conversations that came up. I don't know how you felt about it, but what do you think?
I think that when it comes to privatization, you have the pros and the cons. You will have people who will speak for, you have people who will speak against. Now, the entity called ECG, as it stands now, for example, they are not able to, after distribution, when IPPs have done the generation, the thermals, the VRAs, the buoys, once the generations have been done, and the ECG is the one doing the distribution. Under normal circumstances, haven't done the distribution, you ought not to make losses. Now, you have this price water, this formula or something like that, a cash flow, I've forgotten the term that they use. Cash water form.
Right.
Now, once that thing is done, it's supposed to make distribution in terms of the monetary gains that they would have had. And then the IPPs will also be in a position to generate more power. They will also be able to do their own finances. But over the period, we have not been able to make ends meet with respect to this distribution and the money that we realize as a nation. And so, you see, that's the more reason why the previous government then, under Mr. Mahama, the first time brought this ESLA as a way of clearing this legacy that the succeeding government, Mr. Akufo-Addo's government, came, and they did not get the rationale. I think Mr. Jinapor himself might have said that also. It was mispriced. We did not really know exactly what they used the ESLA for. The ESLA was capped, and so the legacy debt stayed, according to the former president, 2.5. But now, according to Mr. Jinapor, it's around 3 billion or so. So it means that we cannot be doing the same thing and be expecting different results. If the way to go is privatization in the distribution sector of the UPG, then I think that is something that they will have to probably sit down, judge, and get it done. Now, if that will have to be properly done, then it shouldn't be an imposition. And that's the language that I got from Mr. Jinapor. It cannot be an imposition. It must be from you bringing all stakeholders, wanting to set up a 7-member committee, as it were, bringing experts together, and even consumers, as you said. Now, that will ensure that all stakeholders, their views and their grievances are taken care of in the process of doing that. He says he doesn't want to go the PDS way. We all know the fallout of the PDS. Today, we have lost over how many hundreds of millions of dollars, because of the way and manner we implemented the PDS, and then the Millennium Compact we lost out. Now, the current president is trying to get that particular, compact back so that it will help the generation, the generation distribution of
right.
And so the point is that I am not an expert in that area, but I can hazard a guess that if we have been doing corporate, and we are still making losses, and the energy sector is affected, when it collapses, it will collapse all of us. So what is the level of privatization we want to, allow? And what area? It shouldn't be something that at the end of the day will create problems for all of us.
Right.
Because we know it is an area where a lot of capital ought to be invested.
Right.
And then based upon that, we should be able to generate a lot of resources to ensure it evolves. But the final thing too on this same issue is the government role.
Right.
Government role. We know that state institutions, right? State institutions owe ECG a lot of money. State institutions owe ECG a lot of money. When it comes to a private, I pay for my bill. I pay on a monthly basis for my bill. Why shouldn't I get power in my room, in my house? I should be able to get power. But you see, if you come to the universities, for example, the state suggests that, do not let the students pay for electricity that they use. Government will pay. But in the end, government does not bring the money. So you will see that it is piling up. And so at any point in time, ECG will threaten the universities, and then the universities will have to use some of their ideas to go and pay. Meanwhile, the students we have who are using all manner of electric gadgets are not allowed to pay. So we will have to find. So it is not just merely about distribution. They are having distribution losses. I think there are other state agencies and the way and manner they have been using energy over the period is something that we may have to have a relook at.
I see. Now, Prof, I bring you in. The energy sector is saddled with a debt of over $3 billion. Is privatization the way out?
Well, this is a very we are talking about the possibility of private sector. Unlike many other sectors in our economy, there are some entrenched individuals, and call them cabals, the workers. Anytime a government sends somebody to go in and do something to reform and introduce immediately, people start working against the individual, the new leadership. That it has happened in many other institutions. Look, the ECG has built over the years certain individuals. There's no need to mention this. The ones, even if you're new, go in there, somehow you get co-op. They will resist any effort to bring sanity into how we manage this. They will demonstrate, they will go on strike, and they will paralyze you until the government takes you. I'm just saying this because it has happened many times. The ECG certainly, without privatization, will continue to suck our resources and provide this kind of a service that nobody. Okay. The effort of the previous government was okay, except that they crafted it to benefit certain individuals, not necessarily the people of Ghana. I'm referring to India. That's why it included India cases. Listening to Mr. Jinapo yesterday, it's clear to me that he really thought through this particular matter. If they are going to practice, he talked about consulting stakeholders. He talked about seeking advice from other sources. He talked about bringing everybody on board, including the workers. The workers must see that it will be in their own self-interest to reform the sector. But they are short-sightedness in terms of the benefits that they could create a problem for them. So I think if Mr. Jinapo proceeds on the line that he suggested yesterday and gradually bring in the big shots in the sector to deliberate over time, to turn minds around, then I'm absolutely confident that we'll find a better way of privatizing. You see, privatizing it may include laying off people. And that's what the problem is. If there's unemployment and people are employed, you want to lay them off, I'm sure a lot of people will raise their voices against. But for those to be, laid off, I think there should be some way to compensate them adequately for them to be comfortable. Nonetheless, that challenge will be. Because no private person, private investor will come in and maintain the number of people who are kept at that place that is losing money every day. It doesn't make economic sense. So those will be the challenges. Will the government be willing to allow, say, 1,000, 2,000 people to be laid off? Secondly, this meter thing, I have observed it for a long time. It's become a cash cow for those who run the place. How can in one country can have 10 different meters? Some are imported at times from Egypt. They come, they dump them because they don't function. They order new one. Look, there's so many, unfortunately, so many corrupt practices that are killing the organization. So if you are talking about privatization, I am for it. But I think John should provide the leadership, as he suggested, a leadership that should bring all stakeholders around to accept the inevitability of privatizing it. Otherwise, we will continue to suffer.
Doc, now the abolishment of certain taxes, for example, the e-levy that a lot of people have spoken about, the betting tax that people have spoken about, analysts have said that, look, the government is raising revenue currently from these tax lines. If you decide to abolish them, where are you going to get the money from to make up for what you're going to lose? That's one. Two, can it be done in the first year such that even though we find ourselves in a hole, the government says goes ahead to abolish these taxes, and then what, Doc?
Yeah. So I think that where we find ourselves, I don't think that somebody will just be doing guesswork. To suggest that you are going to expand these tax items or tax lines will mean that you have a solution. The solution that he is proposing is tax compliance. Now, if we are talking of tax compliance, you see, when you tax the people at a certain level, we have two things that we can do. We have tax avoidance and tax evasion.
Right.
And I think one of them is a crime. The other is being shrewd. So people are finding ways of approaching e-levy. So in the end, that which you envisage to get, you are not getting it. Therefore, why wouldn't you clear that nuisance? You have to clear that nuisance. Then we have always said we need to broaden the tax net.
Right.
I'm very sure that this particular phraseology, when it came, we were not born. Government over the period have said, broaden the tax net. We are going to broaden the tax net. They don't seem to have a clue of how they will broaden that tax net over the period. And even if you are not able to broaden the tax compliance, what that means is that there are many people who are making a lot of earnings that they are not complying. Now, if they are not complying, then it means that they are doing that in cahoots with tax officers, tax officials. And that in itself, we must have a look at that. That being said, we need to improve the technology and reduce human intervention.
3FM 92.7.
When we are talking about tax compliance. Now, the other thing that for me we have not looked at is this issue of what is it called? This Ghana card thing. Now, Sonny, this Ghana card, apart from identification, what at all is it used for? Well, we are spending billions of cedis on continual basis as a way of identifying our people. How are we benefited? Because we were using the ECD card. There was EC card anyway for identification. We were using a card, we were using other things.
Right.
But this card, we are spending billions. I was thinking, you see, if we want to, I have an idea. We want to expunge levy, COVID levy, and all those things. Already they'll be able to do that in the first year. It says that the first budget by March, all these things will be. But, Tony, why have we not asked ourselves, look, we hire these artisanal guys, tilers, plumbers,
Right.
well,
Masons, still benders.
Still benders. These people, they have a standard. Now, when they come and work for you, the labor is charging you 150 or 100, depending upon wherever you are. Then the one with the scale is also charging you by day about 200 or 250. Now, that money that you're going to give to that person, you have paid tax on it already. Now you are giving to him or her. What tax do you pay on this money? So instead of e-levy that is a nuisance, I am thinking that, look, create a tax standard in which those who are hiring the services of people, we have to see You have to see, what is it called? This IT guy. Let them create a portal in which if I am making a payment to that person, I will not pay the person physically. I will pay the person using the Momo. I mean, how can you tax fuel so much? And then when I go to the fuel place to buy with Momo, I still pay tax on it. It's nuisance. It's very annoying. And so that person that I'm going to pay, there must be a process that I will identify that I'm paying this point, this particular person who has a SIN number of this, and he is charging me this, and I have paid. So that if there is something like tax rebate that at the end of the year the government will give me through that process, I think that I'll be encouraged to use that platform to pay, so that that person will equally pay something to government, because it is an income, it's an earning. He must pay something on his earning. But we often use this political, gerrymandering of saying that these people don't have money, they are poor. It is not true. It is not the case. Because if you ask them to work, within 3 days, that person will have earned more than 15 days that a civil servant will have worked. So these are the new means by which we should be able to burden the taxes. We should use the electronic, but we always go for the low-hanging fruit. We always use the easy way out. The government always likes the easy way out. That is not the best way to go. Let us have these people who are in their hundreds of thousands, if not millions, throughout. Go to the construction section. Apart from those who will be paid, yes, on monthly basis, some of these, they only receive wages. They don't even have anything called net or those things for them. But if we are making payments through electronic system, we can broaden the tax net. We can broaden the tax net through that. Not always those that who are industries, we can easily identify them, harass them. Don't forget that once you harass them, they come out with production. The cost of production goes higher, and then they will what? They will impose those high costs on us, the consumers. At the end of the day, we will complain, will come to you, the government will tell you that the money you have been giving us is not sufficient, and therefore you have to increase our salary. So it becomes a cycle. That is why we don't have stability in the financial, space of this country. And inflation will always be rising if we do not a certain standard, adhere. And for me, yes, I believe it says that by the first budget, we'll be able to expunge these tax scandals. We must have a plan to replace the lost, stock in terms of money that the government is going to have. I'm thinking it's about, is it 10 billion, 14 billion, thereabout, if you combine. And then so it's not, have a look at something, it's always better.
I see. Prof.
If they bring back the road toll,
right,
that means that will equally show up a lot, one way or the other.
I see. Prof, the transition budget is what we're using now, but hopefully by March, the new budget by the new government will be presented. And Kesela Tuforsin was very emphatic yesterday that he will abolish the e-levy in his first budget. Is that a prudent thing to do from a governance perspective for a new government, a government that came to meet all the indices that they say are not in the best of shapes?
Certainly. Realistically, we cannot endorse that kind of approach within 3 months to take away taxes, especially on your revenues falling. But, first of all, don't forget that this is not the first time we're experiencing this kind of tax politics.
Right.
Then the NPP was in opposition towards the 2016 elections. They termed some nuisance taxes.
That's right.
Promised to abolish them. They came and within the year they abolished them. But then we saw what happened. They turned around and imposed many other taxes.
That's right.
Because they need the money. So maybe it could be the same thing that Atufosi wants to repeat. But having said that, you see, if a country has lost its productive sources, not producing and selling, and if the country's industrial base is not existent, that is to say, we haven't brought people into the formal sector, and a huge sector of your people are in the informal sector, taxation will always be a problem. And that's what we are suffering. We have a large informal, apparently the Ghana That was one way to bring everybody on board, but still we haven't gotten there yet. So taxation is going to be, raising revenue is going to be, but especially this time around where even our ability to borrow from the Eurobond and other places have been constrained by our over-indebtedness. Okay. So abolishing these things immediately, I don't know what to substitute for that. But I'm sure if they abolish it, as Ato Paulson says, pretty soon there will be other ways of taxing us for them to raise funds. So
3FM
politics and taxes.
92.7.
I think if the government starts quite quickly on the announced program to quickly reactivate the agri sector, and we begin to drop our imports on certain commodities that we produce ourselves, lower the import base and all, then gradually we release money to support government's expenditures. Other than that, I think we are in a deep hole here. The IMF, even if they are going back, as he said, they are going back to them, there will still be some conditionalities that all of us know about. So the finance of this, I think, and others experts should really sit and put their heads to see how we gradually get out of it. And for me, the bottom line is how we begin to develop and expand our industrial base so we can put more people on the jobs. Then we can expand the tax base by relying on collecting taxes from the informal sector. It's very difficult. So many things go in this country go on that you cannot simply monitor and tax.
Right.
People do a lot of under-table kind of things. So for me, I think we have to find more ingenious ways of increasing the revenue of the government.
Should we bring back the road tolls? Doc had made that suggestion, but should we be bringing it back and perhaps looking at the tariffs as well? The last road minister we had, Mr. Boakwata, indicated that, look, we're paying one of the cheapest tariffs across Africa, and that if we have to bring it back, we have to be thinking about increasing the tariffs. He was the same person that cancelled it without parliamentary approval anyway. But should we be bringing back the road tolls, Prof?
I think from what I heard, they announced that they will bring it back. And it has to be brought back as another source of revenue for government. But before they bring please let them work on these roads towards these toll booths. The toll booths are ugly. They get congested. They are potholed. So many things. It's even ugly to go and sit there to collect money. So they must do some work to expand the booths, to make sure the roads towards that are all dualized so that it will be easy on drivers. But the way it is, like you remember Kasoa, how vehicles will have to queue up for miles before they get there to pay the toll. So they should put those corrective measures in place before they introduce. But certainly they need to as a way of expanding the revenue base.
I see. Doc, we'll have to be wrapping up the conversation. But again, these are just 3 ministers that we have seen. 57 more to go if John Mahama keeps his promise. Are you happy with the pace? Because today is day 8 of the 120 days. He says in the first 14 days, he'll be done with his cabinet ministerial appointments. So far, we have only 3. Are you satisfied with the pace?
Well, I think that what he's trying to do is be cautious as to who he takes, as nominees. I think that so far, many of those critics and all those who have praised the 3 nominees that he made. And so I'm very sure that it's certain that he wants to look a little more basic and come up with a list that even if people are critical, just. But of course, before I continue on that, with the issue of road tolls, I think that we don't need the type of road toll that we have had, of which the council. These road tolls must be automated. They must all be automated so that you don't get there and negotiate. You slot in your point and then you move. The thing raises the barrier. If you move, that is what it should be. Because this idea of creating jobs for the those who are disabled and all those. Yes. It's like you think they have given you a job. I don't think this is any job to go back. Even if they have to be there, I don't know how the role we want to assign them. But if the government raises enough revenue, then it means the government will be in a better position to get better jobs. Better jobs. And Mr. Mahama will say sustainable jobs. That is what government ought to do. And so most of the areas where the volume of traffic is used, I think they must be automated so that the human interference is gone. Maybe in those other places, districts and other places where the volume is not that much, maybe they may want to do something of that so that people still will be using that place as a point of credit. But coming back to the question, I think that the 14 days, you should be able to keep it work. So far, it's great. I'm sure within this week, we are likely to hear other lists that have.
I see.
I think so far so good. Transparency has been the order of the day. He's been very approachable. He's been meeting people who have their own grievances, like, for example, the fire, the market that got burned, readily available to meet them, and other interested parties that have had certain grievances. He's not shying away from meeting them and discussing their issues. And I think that if he continues on that tangent, then obviously the second term wouldn't be that hard.
Prof, let me come to you from a governance perspective. First of all, are we able to run this country with 60 ministers? And also to ask you the question whether you've been satisfied with the pace of appointments.
Well, start with the pace. I actually wish that the president would have announced his team even before the election. So he's been there before. He knew the people he was going to appoint and all. Of course, still there will be some back and forth on individuals. But overall, he knew the people that he was going to work with. So I had wished that the team would have been announced before the inauguration, so that as soon as the inauguration took place, the vetting would have started. Anyway, first of all, I think the appointments committee must manage its time well. Whilst, of course, it's important to allow people to express themselves on these nominees, at the same time, they should be conscious of the time frame that they have to do this. So I'm hoping that henceforth it will be different. Otherwise, it's going to be delayed unduly. It's not necessary. First of all, as somebody said, if NDC wants to have them, they can all be approved without any kind of question. They have them. But it's important that these democratic practices are respected. So I can also respect that. The other second question was...
Right. Whether we're able to run the country with 60 ministers.
Oh, yes. Yes. Why not? Somebody said that Ghana has so many problems you can't run with 60 people. And the other day I read the former NPP chairman also say, no, you don't limit yourself to 60. Look, there is no reason to run this country with more than 50 or 60 ministers. Because if you look, and I like the way the president has started collapsing, he has restructured it by reducing the statutory ones from 30 to 23. That's very commendable. And it's not every task in this country, not every problem that needs to have the minister to solve. No. So I think I like the approach so far. The other part of this so-called ministerial thing is how the Constitution has designated so-called regional officers as regional ministers. These are not, they don't have any portfolio. So the ministerial title we have given to regional administrators is an anomaly. So if the president, and I don't know whether this part is entrenched or not in the Constitution, if not entrenched and parliamentary processes can change that, one of the things he can do quickly is to use his numbers in this positive way to redesignate the titles for those who are put in charge of the regions. That will immediately take away 16. They are not ministers in any case. So I think I agree with the president. He should try to stick to the 60 and 7 example that you don't need 120 people. In fact, we had 120. I don't know anybody can tell me that by having 120 we did better job. Did we? We did not.
We did
so
not,
it's not
right.
the number. Why is the what you call the competence, the leadership abilities of individuals who are put in these ministries that can make the difference. So I think the president can, and the way he has started, I think he has that in mind. So he should not disappoint us by going beyond the 60 that he has promised. It is possible that we can have 60 ministers, even less if he so chooses. There are so many, by the way, reducing the size of government should also not be limited to ministerial cutbacks.
Sunrise on
There are
3
certain
FM,
agencies
the best
that
in
the government
morning.
has created over the years that are unproductive. They call something SIGA. You have an executive director, 2 deputies, 3 deputies. What does SIGA contribute to efficiency in managing government?
State-owned enterprises, right?
And there are certain institutions just like that. So the president can also look at streamlining and doing away with some of these parasites. I call them parasites on the national economy, because they produce nothing but consume so much.
Prof, before you go, we've seen in the past few days revocation of the appointments of some MMDCs, I should say, and then also boards have been dissolved, etc. You governance experts tell us that governance is a continuum, and you need institutional memory and longevity and staying on the job to understand and to make the wheels run smoothly. If every government comes and just sacks everybody and brings on new hands, are we not doing no ababase with our governance system?
This has been a persistent problem over the years. You remember at one point somebody even took the government to court when his position on the Bank of Ghana board was kind of disposed of. So it's been a problem. And I think a better way, there are certain strategic positions that every new government will have to replace. No question about that. Of course, the ministers, obviously, is one such area. And certain agency heads that are so critical, like intelligence head and all that. Those any government will want to change. But in terms of administering institutions, we should have a system that will make appointments overlapping as governments, maybe 6 months into the new government, so that there will be no lacuna once a government changes. Because you're right. You remember, I think, Kufuor's time, either, if my memory serves me right, with the MMDCs, he allowed them to stay for a temporary for 3 months or something.
It was President Mills who did that.
Mills.
President Mills, yes. President Mills who did that. And his people were not happy with him.
Well, certainly, but that was sensible. So I think we have to rework our system to ensure that certain positions are kept, even if the appointing authority is out of power. These positions are kept over time to enable the new government to gradually take over and put their own people there, because it's very disruptive. For instance, in the districts, if you immediately take the DC out as the coordinating director to take a temporary charge, he cannot spend, he cannot do nothing. And if there's an ongoing project, it's bound to stall for a number of weeks or months. So I think we need to revisit this particular point you have made. It's an excellent point you raised. And we need to find a way to ensure that there is no huge vacuum once a government changes hands, so that there can be a smooth transition. And coming to, concerning this issue is what we have been observing lately, which is not new, because whenever there's a change of government, party stalwarts storm offices and demand the closure or takeover and that kind of stuff. That has been part of the problem. So I think we have to find a better way of managing the transition beyond the governmental transition, where ministers they meet and all at agencies and at district level and all. we have to find a way to manage the transition better.
Prof, I thank you very much indeed for your time. We're grateful that you spent your morning with us on 3FM.
And thank you too, Johnny.
Grateful.
And thanks for your good job.
Right. Thank you. Doc, I'll wrap up with you. Your closing thoughts on the matter I raised, and then if you have something else you want to share with us before we go.
Well, I think on the matter that you raised, Prof has adequately dealt with that. Apart from the president bringing people who have had experience in the past, like the three that have gone through the vetting, I think he must equally introduce wild cards. In lawn tennis, most often than not, wild cards tend to even outperform those who are regular members of the tennis team. And so there are certain persons that I have in mind that they should not gloss eyes over. For example, Galamsey is a big problem on our hands. So I expect that he will have someone who has had this mining experience and who knows the ins and the outs, of these mining industry, so to speak, so that with that particular experience, he will be able to deal with the matter as it should be. Not someone that may not have any idea. And some of these people may be first-time MPs, they may be first-timers, in the political space, but they have had industry experience. So if you look at somebody like the person in Takwa, the Takwa and Swayam seat, for example, that has never been won by the NDC.
Right.
And if you have won such a seat at this point in time, you should find a way of protecting back that particular seat, because it will have a positive rippling effect on other seats in that area. That is the western and even western north, some part of the central region, and even central region. So that will be strategic. Then if you look at Cape Coast itself, for example, we have Cape Coast South, Cape Coast North. This is an area where you have a lot more of people, in terms of education and stuff like that.
Right.
The vice president herself, commander is a UCC, a product, and so on and so forth. And so Cape Coast North is a seat that some time ago was held by the NPP.
Right.
But now it is in the hands of the NDC, because you have an academic.
That's right.
As the one who is leading that. And so if you should think of concretizing that particular seat so that it will have an impact, on the northern part of the central region. You see, so if people are suggesting Ricketts be sent to, for example, as a majority leader, or even among the leaders caucus in Parliament, then obviously you must be considering the Cape Coast North, MP as well, because I have found out that he has that international marketing background and so on. And so I think that if you send him to, let's say, an agribusiness, not bad. If you send him to education, not bad. So that those experiences that he's had, both internationally and domestically, could be brought on board in terms of quality. You see, then there are others. Maybe at another time we may think and then probably discuss those points as well.
Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ottray, thank you very much for your time. We're grateful.
Thank you, John.
Great. And that's Jonathan Asante-Ottray. He's a senior lecturer at the UCC. Also, he's a political analyst, and earlier head Professor Bafo Ajimandua, former senior UN governance advisor, here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7.
The best in the morning is on
flashy, sometimes messy routine. That is also one of the most precious bonding moments with your little ones. That's right. Imagine making those moments even more delightful. The all-new Cousins Baby Hair and Body Wash, available in 2 variants, mild and gentle, soft and smooth. Especially formulated with a blend of organic oats, nourishing milk, manuka honey, rose oil, and sakura blossoms. And designed with mood sense technology, making it a perfect choice for your baby. Now, let me tell you why. It is truly special. What is inside that makes it special? Your Cousins Baby Hair and Body Wash is gentle and irritation-free on your baby's delicate skin. It ensures a comfortable and safe bath time. Hypoallergenic, giving you peace of mind. That's a perfect one for your sensitive skin. And most importantly, the mood scent technology helps to stimulate a pleasant, happy mood, so those giggles keep coming. Get to know that the new Cousins Baby Hair and Body Wash makes bath time a soothing, splash-filled bonding moment between you and your little angel. Available in all leading mother care outlets nationwide. Cousins Baby, growing together naturally. I'll return from this break. I'm sure that you will be in the mix. Noble Crosby Annan is here. 6'2's Don Ulo is here. Oh my God. We will hand over the steer to you. Give it to you.